I have three questions for this week's Thought of the Week, Parshas Shemos. I'd like to thank Rabbi Reuven Tergin, and let's get started. Vayhi bayamim hahem, vayigdal Moshe, vayetze el achav, vayar b'sivlotam. Moshe grows up in the house of Paro, raised by Paro's daughter, Batya, and of course raised a little bit by Yocheved and Miriam, his mother and his sister. And Moshe goes out and he wants to see he wants to see his brethren. He wants to see Am Yisrael, and he sees Vayar b'sivlotam. He wants to explore, and he sees their suffering. Vayar ish mitzri maket ishivri me'achav, and he sees a Mitzri, an Egyptian, trying to kill a Jew. Vayifen kovacho vayarki and ish. He looks around. He sees nobody's there. No, he has no witnesses. Vayachet Mitzri, and he kills the Mitzri. Vayitmaneh b'chol, and he buries him. Vayetze b'yom hasheni. Second day he goes out. V'nei shnei anashim ivrim. Two Jews are fighting, trying to kill each other. Vayomer larash lama takeriecha, and he says to one of them, "Why are you trying to kill your friend?" Vayomer, and they answer back to him, "Misamcha liishar v'shofet aleinu." Who put you in charge of us? Hal hargenia tamer? What, you want to kill us? Kasher haragta to Mitzri, just like you killed that Egyptian? Yeah, we know. We saw. Vayira Moshe. Moshe was afraid. Vayomer acheno dahadavar. The cat's out of the bag. Vayishma Paro et hadavar zeh. And Paro heard this. Vayivakesh larog et Moshe, and he wanted to kill Moshe. Vayivrach Moshe mipnei Paro. Vayeshev me'eretz Midian. Vayeshev ala be'er. And Moshe has to run away. So the first question that bothered me this week was, so Paro hears testimony from two witnesses, and he wants to kill his grandson, his adopted grandson, two Jews who are slaves, who don't have a status. Back in those days, slaves have a status, and he believes these two people who have a testimony. Where's the body? Where's the actual testimony? A person who is fit to testify. Didn't Moshe say there was nobody there? How did they even see him? Is this third-hand testimony? Why would Paro conclude to kill Moshe? Now, the obvious answer is actually fleshed out from a midrash. What's the obvious answer? That the way that Datan and Aviram found out was that obviously there was one person there other than Moshe and other than the Egyptian, and that's the Jew. And the Jew is the one who went around telling everyone. The midrash fleshes this out, tells us who is this person? Who is this Jew? This Jew is actually Datan. Datan and Aviram was Datan's brother, and Datan was one of the Shotrim, was one of the officers who was under the Egyptian officers, the slave drivers who had their Jewish Judenrat, and what happened was every morning the Egyptian slave driver would wake up the Jewish officer to get him, pre-morning to wake up with the rooster crow, and send him out to work to wake up the rest of his. There were 10 Jews per officer and 10 officers per slave driver, and hierarchy. So one morning, the Egyptian slave driver wakes up Datan, and he has a lust for Datan's wife. So he sends Datan out. He goes into the tent. His wife mistakes the Egyptian for her husband, and they have a baby. Who is this baby? Well, in Parshas Vayikra, we have, in Sefer Vayikra, we have the story of the Mekalel, the person who curses out God's name. Who was the mother? Shlomit bat Divri. Shlomit bat Divri, says Rashi in the Midrash, that she spoke a lot. Divri, davar, diber, that she spoke a lot. She was a little bit too immodest, too prutza, and she caused this. That was the son, the bastard son, that ended up cursing God's name. How did he learn God's name? Because Halhargenia Taomer, when Datan and Aviram say, you want to kill us? Halhargenia Taomer, says the Rashi, says the Midrash, that Moshe used God's name to kill the Mitzri. And that's how this kid knew it, because Datan heard it, and he passed it on to his son, and his son used it negatively. Datan is out the next day. arguing with Aviram about a get. He wants to divorce his wife, and they're arguing back and forth. And Moshe goes out and says, "What are you arguing about?" And it's Datan and Aviram who go, and they don't like Moshe. They don't like Moshe getting involved in their business. And it's Datan and Aviram who go and they tell Paro about the murder. And that's why Paro believes them, because they have first-hand knowledge. They were there. They can show him the body. The Midrash says, "Vayitmnei b'chol," and he buried him in the sand. He buried him in front of Am Yisrael. Am hanimshal l'chol. He told them, "You have to keep my secret," and they didn't keep his secret. So the obvious answer is, Paro heard from first-hand witnesses who were able to show him the body, who were able to testify because they were there. But within this Midrash, something else comes up. The Yalkut Shimoni uses this Midrash and he says, why was Moshe out? Vayetze elecha vayar b'sivlotam. Why did he go out? So the Yalkut Shimoni says Moshe was going around, he was looking for a reason. Why is it that Am Yisrael are in Galus, are under slavery, not any other nation? So Siftei Chachamim explain on Rashi, on Achenu da hadavar. Rashi says Achenu da hadavar. When Moshe says Achenu da hadavar, now I know why they're in slavery. Moshe wants to know why are they in slavery, and he goes out and he finds out the answer. Well, Siftei Chachamim ask, what do you mean? God told Abraham, your children will be slaves. So the Siftei Chachamim explain. First of all, he didn't say that it would be in such harsh slavery. Number two, Abraham had many other children. He had 8 children total. Could have been any of the other 7. So why is Am Yisrael in slavery? And he gets his answer because when he tries to stop up the fight between the 2 Jews, between Datan and Aviram say, you know what? Leave us alone. We're going to go tell Paro on you. We are going to tell Lashon Hara. And Moshe says, now I understand. It was the Lashon Hara that caused this. The Meshech Chochmah takes this one step further, based on this midrash in the Bereshis Rabbah and the Yalkut Shimoni. He explains that it wasn't actually the fact that Moshe murdered the Egyptian that Paro wanted to kill him. It was that Moshe found out, oh, Lashon Hara is causing this slavery, is causing this galus. I have to fix this. He tried to stop Datan and Aviram from being informants. Again, Datan and Aviram were the officers, the Jewish officers who reported to the slave drivers who reported to Paro. Paro needed them. They were an important cog in the system, not just because they ran the slavery, but because they fed him information. They were his informants, his spies. And Moshe discovered this and tried to stop it. And Datan and Aviram go around, and to put the proof in the pudding, they tell on him for this. They go and inform Paro. They say he's committing treason. He's trying to ruin your hierarchy. He's trying to ruin your country. And this Paro could not accept. This is why Paro tried to kill Moshe. This is how it explains the Meshech Chochmah. So again, the cause of the galus, the cause of the slavery was Lashon Hara. That was the root problem. Moshe tries to correct this, but to no avail because there's resistance, and he has to run away. When he runs away, he turns into a leader, and God approaches him, and he wants to send him to be the savior of the Jews. And Moshe's first response is, V'hein lo ya'aminu li. The Jews are not going to believe me. They're not going to believe that I'm the person who is supposed to be sent to save you, to redeem you from your slavery, to bring you to Eretz Yisrael. They're not going to believe me believe in you, that you are coming to save them. They've lost all hope. So, very famously, what does God answer him? He says he gives him a couple signs. What does he give him? He gives him the staff, and he says, throw that staff onto the ground, and it becomes a snake. And then he says, put your hand into your chest, and he pulls it down. He has tzarat. Tzarat, both the snake and the tzarat are, says the Midrash, they're punishments. God was saying to Moshe, you deserve tzaras, you deserve for the Nachash to eat you up because you spoke Lashon Hara. Vayanos Moshe mipanav. Moshe ran away from the snake, says the Midrash, because of the chait. Moshe knew very much right away. God was telling him, you're speaking Lashon Hara. And then he gives him He gives him in Tzarat. The Meshech Chachma even explains that it was at this moment when he said Vehein lo ya'aminu li. At that moment was when Moshe lost out the ability to be a Kohen and he became a Levi, because he says Vaya'an Moshe Vayomer Vehein lo ya'aminu li. Why Vaya'an? And Moshe answered. Well, the Meshech Chachma explains Vaya'an is like the Vaya'anu Levim Bekol Vayomru. Speaking about the Levim, their role also has this word of Vaya'an, of answering. And the Midrashim explain Vaya'an is Shira. The Levim have their special songs. Hashir Shah Levim Hayum Omer Beit HaMikdash, that we say every day to remind us of each day. That was the Levim's job to sing. Vaya'an Moshe Vayomer Vehein lo ya'aminu li. At that moment, when he spoke Lashon Hara about Am Yisrael, he lost out on his ability, on his privilege to be the Kohen, to serve in the Kodesh Kodashim, to serve in the Holy of Holies, day in, day out, and that was given to his brother Aaron. A grave sin. Not only that, but he repeats the sin. The Meshech Chachma explains, when Moshe goes to Mitzrayim, after God gives him, assures him, with these signs that Am Yisrael is going to believe you, he takes his wife and his children and he goes to Mitzrayim. What happens on the way? He stops at a hotel, and a angel meets him and tries to kill him or his baby. And Tzipporah, his wife, does bris milah, gives a circumcision to the son. The Midrashim explain that the angel tried to kill Moshe because he didn't give his son a circumcision until now. Why didn't he give him a circumcision until now? Because he was on the path, he was going through the desert, and you can't just leave your son for 3 days hanging in the middle of the desert. He felt it was a sakana, it was a danger, so he had to hold on. Explains the Meshech Chachma. But Moshe was sent to do a job. He was sent to do a mitzvah. He should be protected. Shluchei mitzvah eina nizaki. And those who are on their way to do a mitzvah, to do the will of God, are protected. So explains the Meshech Chachma, why did he bring his children? Why did he bring his wife? He was showing, he still believed, Bnei Israel won't believe me, but I believe. I'm going to show them that I believe. Otherwise, why would I bring my wife and children into a war zone, into a danger zone, into a place of slavery, unless I believed we're getting out of here alive? It was his act of confidence, but that act of confidence showed that he didn't believe that Am Yisrael had the confidence in him. And that's exactly why a snake tried to eat up Moshe, or the child. Again, the snake that spoke Lashon Hara back in Gan Eden. What did it say Lashon Hara about in Gan Eden? It said to the woman, you know why God doesn't want you to eat from the tree of knowledge? Because God himself ate from the tree of knowledge, and that's how he created this world. He doesn't want you to go and eat from the tree of knowledge and create your own worlds. That was the Lashon Hara that the Nachash spoke. And Moshe comes and he repeats this not once, he does it again. And then later on down the line, he calls Am Yisrael Mamrim. He doesn't speak so highly of Am Yisrael. How is it that he goes out into the world to explore the reason, the source of the negative things that are befalling Am Yisrael, these trials and tribulations, and he discovers the answer to Lashon Hara, and he goes and he does Lashon Hara a second later, and then later on he repeats this in his life. How does he not learn the lesson? He wanted to know the answer. How doesn't he learn the lesson? That's my second question. Now, my answer to this question and the next question are going to be a little bit weak because they're my answers, but I'll try to bear them out. I think it's one thing to see something and to learn from seeing somebody else experience it. It's a completely different thing to experience it yourself. You know, our parents can try all they want, and it might be the parents' job to help us avoid the mistakes that befell them. But ultimately, we're destined to repeat those mistakes. As we know, history repeats itself. The Ramban always brings up this concept of Maseh Avot Siman Labanim. The acts of our fathers are a sign for us. Now, you can think of this in two ways. Siman Labanim could be, you know, when you go hiking and somebody went there previously and they give you a sign, they say danger, because maybe somebody befell danger, you know, 10 years ago, something terrible happened, something tragic happened, and now we know, don't go, you know, down this path, up this cliff, stay away from this side because somebody else experienced it, and we can know to stay away from it. But that's not the way Masa Avos Siman Lebanim works. As we know, the Avos repeated their father's actions. Yitzchak and Yaakov each followed suit from their father. They didn't necessarily learn from their parents. They actually repeated the destiny that their parents had. Because that's our destiny. That's what it is to be a Jew. That's the way the world is, of history repeating itself. What's in our DNA is not necessarily that we should learn from our parents to avoid those mistakes. We're not mistake avoiders. We embrace the mistakes. What makes us Jewish, what makes us human beings, what the avoda is the tshuva, is what we do with those mistakes, how we rebound from those mistakes. When God created man, the Psukim explain in Bereshis, Vayitzer Hashem Elokim et ha'adam afar min ha'adama. God created man from dirt of the ground. Ha'adama. Explains Rashi, what's the ground? A ground that we're referring to in the past. The ground that was used in the Mizbeach. On the altar that we used to attain tshuva in the Beis HaMikdash. Man was created with the Mizbeach, with tshuva, with atonement, with kapara in mind. Because in our DNA is not to avoid mistakes. It's to learn from them. It's to rebound from them. It's to do tshuva. Like the Gemara says in Sukkah that Ein tzadikim omdim b'makom shebali tshuva omdim. Those who repent, they come much closer to God. The explanation given in semi-Kabbalistic terms is you have a letter Hey. And there's two ways to enter. You can enter from the bottom, but when a Jew falls out the bottom, he can't go back up that way. So he comes in from the side, and he comes up higher than if he were to go here. That's our DNA. Our DNA is tshuva. Our DNA is Sheva Yipol Tzadik V'Kam. A tzaddik is a person who falls 7 times, but he gets up again. We know the story. It's a very famous story of a midrash that there was an Arabic king who wanted to see this Moshe, who heard about this Moshe. I want to see him. I want a portrait of him. I want to see what kind of person he is. I want to see his characteristics. And the painter goes and he brings back this ugly person, this person who looks stubborn and mean and terrible. And he says, this can't be him. He said, no, I'm telling you, that's Moshe. And the king says, I have to go see it for myself. And he goes and sees Moshe, and he sees that's his likeness. And he goes up to Moshe, he says, wow, you don't look anything like I expect. You're not this patient-looking, sweet man. You don't look that way, although you are. And Moshe said, yeah, I'm not. My inherent personality is not the way. I had to work very hard. I had to stumble and stumble and stumble and get up. Yeah, Moshe fell in that exact pitfall that he knew to avoid, because sometimes Masa Avot Siman Lebanim, sometimes we repeat the history. That's the way God intended it. But Moshe was an expert at tshuva. My next question is, where was this tshuva? There's no reference to the tshuva Moshe does. There's reference to his mistakes, but not to the tshuva that he does for this Lashon Hara. So I think there's 2 answers. Number 1, the tshuva is in Yisrael. Vayar Elokim et Yisrael. When Am Yisrael, after 400 years, however do the calculations of slavery, after 400 years, God says, I see that they need my help. Where was he beforehand? So the Midrash explains, because he did tshuva. Because Am Yisrael did tshuva. Even the Beinonim, even the Rishaim, everybody did tshuva. The Midrash Agadol explains, when God told Moshe, I'm saving Am Yisrael, he said it comes on condition that they do tshuva. And they did. In that time that Moshe left and discovered that they'd done the sin of Lashon Hara, they had worked on correcting themselves, and they did tshuva. That's why Moshe, when he said to Yitro, I'm going home. Why am I going home? They're ha'odam chayim. I'm going to see if they're still alive. The Netziv explains what he was saying was, I'm going to go for a second, check in with them, and then come home. Is that what happened? Is that what he was intending to do? He was intending to save them. Why would he lie to his father-in-law? So the Midrash explains, because God told him that there was a condition that he would be saving Am Yisrael on, and that was tshuva. And Moshe said, I don't know if 100% that tshuva is going to hold up. I don't want to say anything that would ruin this momentum. I'm going to let it stand, and we'll see what happens. Moshe is part of that tshuva too. He had to go through that process of tshuva. He spoke Lashon Hara because the leader mimics and parallels and personifies his generation and his nation. Like the Shari Tzvila explains, when Avram had guests, what did he feed them? He fed them tongue and mustard, because that was the delicacy of the day. Great. So what? The lesson is that Avraham knew what was going on in the world. He knew his people. He knew his audience. He knew how to speak to them. He knew how to relate to them. Not only that, Moshe not only knew how to relate to them, but he went through those same struggles. He had to. Am Yisrael did tshuva, and Moshe did tshuva, and the proof is in the pudding. The fact that they were saved, because Moshe was part of Am Yisrael. He wasn't a Benoni. He wasn't a Rasha. He was a tzaddik. Of course they did tshuva. Of course he did tshuva. But the answer is, I think the even more obvious answer is the fact that he continues to be in the Torah. The Meraglim, they didn't learn. They didn't learn from Miriam, and they're called Rishaim. That's why Shlach is right after Baaloscha by Miriam. Why? Because the Midrash says, Rashi says, these Rishaim lakhu musar, lo lakhu musar. They saw and they didn't learn. Moshe saw, he didn't learn, but he eventually learned. He came back. He fought back. He fought his way up. We see him again. Meraglim, we never hear about them again, other than the two tzaddikim, Yoshua and Kalev. The fact that Moshe is still there shows that he did tshuva. He must have. The third answer is, it doesn't even need to be stated, because again, this is the human condition. This is what it is to be a Jew, to do tshuva. It's obvious he did tshuva. Lashon Hara is always with us. Like the Chavetz Chaim said, there are 31 isurim, there are 31 ways that we could be experiencing Lashon Hara. We could be doing that Aveira. We could be sinning with Lashon Hara. The Chavetz Chaim once joked sarcastically, I would tell people that 31 sins that could be with one word versus one sin by eating pig. I would tell people that it's way worse to speak Lashon Hara than it is to eat pig, but I don't want people to eat pig. Lashon Hara is always with us. It's always a struggle. The Chavetz Chaim also explained Lashon Hara is something that's unique to Jews. That one person speaking can affect another on a spiritual level in the soul, that others could be suffering because of our words, that we can create such a downfall and wreak such havoc. Our avoda, our work, our mission is not to eliminate speaking. Like the Chavetz Chaim was a man of words. Once you know what you're not allowed to do, it opens up the gates of what you are allowed to do, and you know very much, you're very confident in what you can speak about. Our job is not to eliminate speech. It's not to eliminate Lashon Hara. It's not to eliminate sinning. It's to learn. It's to stand back up, to get back up again, to let go of the past and move forward with a smile on our faces and to grow from it. When we leave Mitzrayim finally, and we're about to go through the Yam Suf, we stop and we pray. And God says, what are you doing? Deber b'nei Yisrael v'yisau. Ma titzak alai. Why are you yelling at me? Why are you davening to me? Stop talking about what's happening and go forward. We go forward. God supports us. Yihira Samli Fnei Abinu Shebashamayim, that we should learn to let it go, move forward, grow, and through that ultimately become leaders of Am Yisrael to lead us to the final Geula. Good Shabbos.